Conservation Board for many years. I know what the funds are, and I know how they're spent. And I'm well familiar with the fact that when I was relieved as chairman, we left well over $1 million in the fund. And one of the reasons for that was to improve and enlarge the convention center. That hasn't happened, but the funds were there. I'm not going to question where the funds went and how much they've got left or anything. All I'm asking for is some of that money to do something for the community that will benefit them also. Now, that's my discussion in that respect. If there are any questions or comments anybody wants to ask,
Our treasurer has something to add. Thank you for that preface, Ernie.
With all due respect to you, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. I guess this was the first I heard about it, was after seeing it on the agenda. And I feel like before we go this route of trying to get more money, I would maybe suggest we look at what money we've got coming in and what we could use towards that. I've never had to get brought before the budget committee to spend it on this type of stuff. I would suggest that we look and see if we could actually do it with what funding we get now.
Does the funding from this tax go right, this is the fund that goes right into capital?
It goes into capital, but this fiscal year we also have it going some into the general fund to support some of the capital projects and the upkeep for that. So we are putting some in the general fund, but the majority of it is going to the capital, which I feel we could look at during the budget process.
Are there any questions from the council on it?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe we do have a mechanism to help clean up downtown, and that's a Main Street program, and I do think that they're working diligently. They've taken down all the signs, they've painted the buildings around here, they're picking up trash on private property. Maybe you should reach out to them.
Well, do you mean our streets don't need any help?
With that,
Our streets don't need any help?
I would talk to Mr. Albert about that, he's in charge of the road department.
I won't comment on that. Ernie, I appreciate your comments too, but once again, this is like a blind side. When people in the audience came here, they had facts, hard numbers on where the money's going. You know, you're just grasping at a wish. RTC, excuse me, I have the floor. I have the floor.
Councilman Albert does have the floor. We'll allow you to respond.
Maybe you never read the paper what RTC has done for this community for the last 3 years. A lot, Ernie. Get out, drive someplace besides your house up Middle and Murray Street. The Broadband Park, we're in line for a $5.9 million grant to beautify Broadband Park. Are you not aware of that? As for the messes on the street, we have a nuisance abatement ordinance cleaning the city up. You read the letter. If you didn't read Jennifer, 85 complaints turned in. We're working on that. That's working. You know, and the Main Street Committee that's just not in Ely, Nevada. There's one in Baker, there's one in McGill, and one. So they're working on it. But once again, as the city treasurer mentioned, did you go in and see how much money is budgeted? Tell me how much money is budgeted this year in the general fund out of tourism rec. You don't know, because you never looked. You have to get your facts together before you can sell anything, Ernie. Thank you.
You wish to respond, Councilman Frank? Would you like to respond to that? Is there something to add?
No, if that's the feeling of the council people, that they have the right to say what they think, I have the right to say what I think, and I do believe that a little more money coming in, I'm not asking for the large, I'm not asking for their entire budget, I'm asking for a very small amount. If we should discuss it, to do some of the things that would be very beneficial for the city and its members and its populace. I don't think, oh well, I'll leave it open for discussion if anybody wants to discuss anything further, that's fine. I've sat in this position, I've seen Main Street America, we have an office upstairs for Main Street America. I've never seen anybody sit in that desk or chair. What Main Street America has done is not visible that I know, other than those little signs they put up and a deal of a Cossack down by Sports World across the street. I'm not criticizing. That takes money to be done, the things that they could do and everything else. Getting a whole picture of the whole thing, and I think it's mandatory that we should look to see what we can do for this community to benefit it and to benefit the populace that live there and for other people that visit or whatever, as they drive through or what.
Councilwoman Parker, did you have something to add?
Yes, I'm sort of standing in the gap. I understand where everyone is coming from. I know for me as a council person, I think it would help me a lot if Jeanette could bring me up to speed on where all the money goes and what we're doing, so I can have an intelligent conversation, because I'm just not aware of all of those things. So I think it is further conversation, because that's just what we're talking about and asking for. Some of you guys obviously have a very good grasp on what's going on, but it doesn't hurt to have a conversation to see where we are or what suggestions someone may have, because we're not looking for a commitment yet right now or whatever.
Councilman Alden.
Yes, you know, the Tourism Rent Board, they distributed their 2021 City of Ely Transit Lodging Tax January through September. And if you look at the amount of money coming in, I would say a lot of people are coming to this fine city of ours. It's the highest, this last month, the highest it's been in the last 9 months, $219,723. The city of Ely gets 45% of that. The four main collectors of that, City of Ely, the railroad, taxation, because they're not getting more, and the golf course. So 45% of money that none of us are coming out of our pockets, the tourists are paying this right here. I think that's a pretty healthy amount, and the way the treasurer has this budgeted, again, it's in the budget, it's sitting there. People need to get more involved with our finances in these seats right here to get a better understanding of going. But once again, when Ernie says the city is going downhill, I take backstage of that. I don't like that saying. When people are coming to town, here are the numbers, Ernie. Again, I appreciate your comments, but get your numbers and facts together, because you come here with your wish list. If you have a project, XYZ, I need $50,000.27. That's what you have to come here. You just can't, you just can't wish and wish and wish. I don't work like that, and you should know that. I want to see hard numbers. I'm in that budget all the time with that lady back there, so that's how I stand on this. More information is needed for me to do anything.
Is there a motion or a pleasure from the council on what they'd like to do here?
How much money are you asking for?
I haven't set a amount of anything. I was looking at, right now the city gets 2.5%. Now, we can't qualify the road as part of our budget. They're a whole separate thing. Well, I was looking at there at the time when I was chairman of the board, we set a 0.5% aside for a recreation facility. All the time, that money goes to the golf course, which is a county facility. The other thing is, the city never received any of that money for its parks or a baseball field when the school was using it as a baseball field or anything else. What I was looking at was increasing the 0.5% to go to 3% and an additional 3%, 6% total. That would be my suggestion. That's not necessarily what maybe the council would want to do, but that would be my encouragement in that respect. 6% of the budget isn't all that great. We're going to need monies. Our cemetery is getting to the point where we're going to have to enlarge or go somewhere else in for a cemetery. Where are the funds going to come to buy that land and develop it? We're not getting our proper taxation dollars in the county. So therefore, we're poor in financial ends. I can't see if any place else where you can get more money. So that state law leaves that open for us to be able to go to that money for uses that the city was hacked.
Another comment, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Ernie, do your homework. You just made a wrong statement about the cemetery. I was a big worried about the cemetery thing. Did you read the engineer's report on that? We have 91 years out there, Ernie. 18 burials a year. Now, a year ago when we talked budgeting, you had a plan about fencing and sidewalk and all that. Where did that plan go to? Nowhere. But once the cemetery is off my list of what if we need to find a new cemetery. That was answered. So take that off your wish list, please. But get in the budget process. We talked about the fence going down Orson, the securing the gates. I haven't heard another word from you about that for a year. Thank you.
And I'd like to point out that some of these park projects, we can spend some of this ARPA money on. And I believe that's what's coming from the engineer's office and from the budget committee for the meeting in November. But if you have some ideas there that can get picked out of the budget committee, there's funding there for that. Is there a motion from the council on this?
I've been pretty quiet about this because I do understand the NRS. I know exactly what the room tax can go to. I know the percentages, and I probably know better than anybody in this room because I follow them. The NRS, when they originally did this, I was only opposed to getting any room tax. The NRS, I think it's 268, whatever the number is, says that room tax revenue can be used for anything that the general fund revenue of the city really can be used for, any and all of it. I think we've been working for the last how many months on infrastructure bills at Congress, trying to get different things done. If anything was to, you know, I listened to Ernie and all these ideas he might have to clean this all up, but my biggest concern is this community does not have funding to maintain our infrastructure. It just doesn't have it. We are looking at a program last meeting where they're talking about 2,218 employees at a peak. I can't imagine the impact that's going to have on our landfill, on our wastewater treatment plant, and there's no mitigation been done for that. Now, whether we move forward with income, but the tax increase, I think we do need a plan of how it's going to be spent. But originally, it was designed to go into the capital improvements, and I believe I've heard mentioned several times that that's how we were able to help fund some of these, meet our match. So that is being used for that. But is it enough? I mean, I think that's what Ernie's coming from. Cleaning up weeds on Main Street, I don't think that's the use of this money. I mean, property owners need to do that. There's all kinds of stuff that needs to happen. But I think infrastructure is the key, and if the revenue can't be found anywhere, and well, I'll tell you, right now, I really would like to have seen a budget, and I think it does need to go if the council decides they want to increase our percentage, then there's got to be due notice to the Church and Recreation Board so they can plan budgeting, we can have our hearing on it. But as far as going back and forth on this stuff today, if the room tax money can be used for anything that the general fund of the city really can be used for. And it has come up in the past, and a couple of things that stopped it was the fact that we have to give a percentage of our general fund to the sheriff's office of increasing. So that's never been a good feeling for anybody on this board, even prior to me getting on here, I don't think. The other thing is, I do believe the city of Fallon collects every single penny of the room tax and then distributes it, every penny. So that's far more than the city really gets. So when you say we're the highest in the state, that's also a misconception. It is not true. Fallon takes 100% of room tax and then funds their community center and the other projects from that.
I believe the director is saying that our rate, the 13.5 that the people pay for the room is
He
not-
said specifically that Ely gets more than Sparks.
Three times more, yes.
As a
That's
percentage.
what he's
or
there,
total?
there, so,
Please come to the podium.
thank you. And believe me, I share all the concerns expressed by Commissioner Plangus. I struggle with the blight, I struggle with the empty stuff. I mean, I see tourism as an economic development tool. That it's not just fun and games. I mean, we're creating quality of life for the local citizens to try to increase businesses that want to move downtown, people who want to move into the community. And because of that, you are going to see your revenues increase. Those are standard taxable things that the communities do make money from. So as our community does grow, not only will your tourism dividend grow, but your taxable stuff will grow. Now, One of the other communities that takes a majority of the taxable is Elko. Elko had some serious problems during COVID because their tourism went down significantly. Their conventions went down to almost nothing, and because of that, the city of Elko struggled with their line item too. Tourism is a safety net, it's diversity. It's not an answer to everybody's problems. It's like when all of your eggs are in one basket, you're really not safe. Because tourism can ebb and flow. We really weathered the COVID storm well. And that's why you saw everybody's revenues go up during COVID, because we played it correctly. But there could be something that could happen where tourism goes away for a while, and if the city is truly banking on the money that it's bringing in through tourism, that scares me. That scares me because I don't think that's a safe way of going at it. I agree that as a citizen, as a homeowner, I agree that infrastructure needs to be improved. I agree that streets need to be cleaned up. I agree with all of this stuff. I see tourism as a partner in this, and I certainly see that with the $900,000 that I have to play with after everything is distributed, to make $60 million out of that, I would just hope that when you guys use money from tourism, that you're getting the same return on investment for the citizens of this community that I am for you guys. And that would be my comment on that. Fallon absolutely does that. They have a completely different model. I think they did well because they have a strong city government, but Elko did not fare as well when they had the same model.
Actually, it goes a lot deeper than that. I think we're getting way off course here, but I can tell you, and I can share it with you, like the city of Ely is the only city in the entire state of Nevada. We do get 17 cents of ad valorem. 100% of the property taxes paid by the residents and the businesses of the city of Ely goes to White Pine County, period. They don't give any of it back.
I can see where that would be frustrating.
Elko County, on the opposite side of that, Elko gives the city of Elko 61 cents on the 366. Carlin, $1.14. I got every one of them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we are locked in to a county that has been bleeding the residents dry. Infrastructure is a big problem, and yesterday I seen a mess on Mill Street, we see a mess on Murray Street. Guys, we gotta address that down the road, whether it's room tax today, room tax tomorrow, or trying to get the legislature to help us with this ad valorem and PILT and net proceeds. There's a whole bunch of things going into play.
Totally.
So Elko's got a different model, but they also have, every one of their taxes are distributed equally and fairly, and they're not in this county. So that's a problem.
Well, I understand that that's frustrating. That's certainly not something that falls on tourism's shoulders.
Well, that's the only tax we can go after. But anyway, I know I'm up in hope.
Yeah, I just know if you've got an investment that's paying dividends, you usually don't draw off the principal. You continue to get those dividends. So anyway, my door's open. I'm here to work with you guys to figure this out. Like, we're all on the same team and we all share the same concerns. So,
And we appreciate you being there for the information.
absolutely.
Is there a motion that could be made for this? Is there anybody who has a motion they'd like to make? If there's none, the item will die for lack of a motion. Going once, going twice. Item dies for lack of motion. We're going to backtrack to item 1. All right, and thank you for being here for that item. Item 1, Mayor Robertson, discussion for possible action, appointment of municipal utility board member with term through December 31, 2022. The nominee for this seat is Sherry Marcus, who is here with us now. Sherry's been working at Mount View Power for a number of years now, involved in billing and specifically utility billing. I think she would bring in a lot of good information and a lot of good experience to the utility board. And for that reason, I'd like to nominate her. She's here if there's any questions.
I'd like to move to appoint her.
Second from Councilman Alt. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm just eager to learn and surely willing to put in time to help out.
Certainly appreciate your willingness. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? All any opposed? Carried, so ordered. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We'll move on to item 4 now. Oh, yeah, public hearing. Thank you. I'm sorry. Item 6, the mayor will recess the regular city council meeting for a public hearing at 5:30 p.m. on the following topics. Item 1, Councilman Allworth, discussion only. approval to install yield signs on 12th Street and Avenue L intersection. This is discussion from the board as well as anybody in attendance in the room or on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Councilman, Mr. Mayor. Bill Miller. I just want to state that I approve this agenda item, and I'm thankful for Mr. Allworth for placing it on the agenda. I brought this forward a few weeks ago at another commission meeting, or council meeting, excuse me. I want to thank the sheriff and his staff for conducting a traffic study, and I hope we move forward with placing yield signs at this intersection. I think yield signs at this intersection, and I know that placing yield signs at this intersection will at least get the public to take a glance, make sure that nobody else is coming in the opposite direction. It is located, within 1 block of one school and about 3 blocks of another school. And we have about 85% or more, I would say, traveling in this area. We have a child or a student on board with the parents. So safety is a factor in this area, and I appreciate Jim for putting this on there. Thank you.
Any other discussion then? Anyone would like on the record? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move on to item 7. Discussion for possible action, items pertaining to the public hearing. Councilman Allworth, discussion for possible action, approval to install yield sign on 12th Street and Avenue L intersection. Is there anything you'd like to preface this with, Councilman Allworth?
No, I'd like to thank the sheriff for giving us this survey. Quite a report when you put it all together, really into statistics, that's good.
8 o'clock.
Yeah. You get there early in the morning, and about 3 in the afternoon, so it gets busy, so. Thank you, Sheriff, for such a good report.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the install of yield signs. There's no other comment.
I'll second.
A motion from Councilman Allworth and a second from Councilman Spears. Any further discussion? Anything you'd like to add, Sheriff Emmons?
No.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. We move back to item 4. Councilman Flangus, discussion for possible action. Approval to move forward with discussion on establishing one-way traffic on Mill Street and Murray Street. Is there anything you'd like to preface with this?
Yes, I had a few calls lately with work on being done on Merge Street. It has been brought up by other people that looking at both Mill and Merge Street, maybe possibly being one-way streets, one coming in, one going out. I personally am not in favor of Mill Street being a one-way, but it is a traffic study that should happen. If you look at it and count the traffic and whatnot, it's probably Mill Street is probably the 3rd busiest street other than the main street in town. Lyons Avenue and whatnot. Traffic going on both ways and parking on both sides of the street sometimes is a hindrance. Merge Street is quite narrow. And consequently, if you go out there, if it was paved down and fall in, you'd find most of the automobiles on Merge Street are parked on the sidewalk instead of the street. This would possibly give them the right to park on both sides of the street. Some parts of Mill and some parts of Merge, there's restrictions where you can park. I feel that it could be viable if a study was done properly and looked at. I'm not saying we should look at it and make a ruling today. It's something I brought up from the people that live on the street that have contacted me.
Okay.
So it's open for discussion. I don't have the answers. I just have the reason to have it on the agenda.
Are there any questions or motion on this item?
Well, I'd like to make a statement that back when US Highway 6 became formerly Mill Street, and we did the resurface and put in the curb and gutter, and we took over that street instead of keeping the state highway. This was brought up during some of them public hearings about the one-way streets, and we were chastised dearly for it, but I've lived my entire life, spent my entire life on Mill Street where the two streets come together. I was born and raised there, and I still have the house there, and that's a problem. It's always been a problem. But the lady in the audience there, I've got to agree with her too. We have some real narrow streets, and one-way streets are eventually going to need to be happening. Those streets down in Centralia you're talking about, they're nightmares. They're a flat nightmare. And with so many more people moving up, living and parking on the right side of Mill Street, it's creating a problem there. If you go up there with the stuff's going on, but I do think we need a public hearing. We need to discuss this. But having traffic flowing south on Mill, north on Murray would not be a bad deal. It'll help the people in the parking, but to even consider that during that horrible mess we have, and we have one more stage of that yet. Don't we have stage 3 coming? I mean, so I think we're looking at a couple of years before we even want to discuss this, but ultimately, one-way streets would help both of those streets. If people might not like it to begin with, but your traffic flow is going to be better. We have a second problem with that, and that's truck traffic. We have 2 blocks into this Mill Street, we have a sign that says anybody over 2010 can't go on it. I've seen truckers try to back up. It's too late when the GPS tells them to get on Mill Street to back out of that. They're stuck. I had a guy out here in the team was sitting out of his truck not too long, maybe a week or two, and I wondered what he was doing, so I had to ask him. I was just heading up Mill Street, and he said, well, I'm over 2010, what do I do? And I said, there's nothing you can do but go. And so he went. That's a problem. I don't know how, maybe we need better science too, because once we get Murray Street completed, we still have the same problem when coming down, because their GPS tells them that's the shortest way to Reno or wherever their destination is. So they get on that road. Once they're on it, there's a sign that says you can't be here. But they're in the tractor trailer rig or 2 trailers. So there's something, I think it's got to be ahead of the turns. I'm not sure what the answer's going to be, but anyway, right now I think it's too early to go for one-way streets. But I can tell you, I was in favor of on city council the last time. My dad almost lynched me because he was so adamantly opposed to it as fire chief and getting, but you know, they have lights and sirens, they can go any direction they want if they really want to. But he was one of the guys that said absolutely not. And I think they run at it one more time since then and hasn't had success. But you know, we need to take a look at that. And sooner or later, I think it would be an asset to the residents on Mill, especially because when Mill and Canyon were built, Canyon was the front door, their homes was on the back of Canyon around Mill Street. But now we have homes that were built later that has the front door on Mill. You see, that's why there's no alleys up in there as well. But anyway, I think that it's premature right now at this stage to continue this item. So
I'd also recommend to the council that it be tabled at least until the project is finished. But if I might add, I really feel that it is not the city's responsibility to provide street parking for individuals. If you own a home, your responsibility is to provide parking on your property for your vehicles. And if you have too many vehicles, I don't think that should be the city's issue for how they park their vehicles. And I think a one-way street in either direction would be addressing a parking issue for private property owners. And I just have heartburn with that, but that's my 2 cents. I would encourage that we also table this at least until the project is finished, if not until phase 3 is done.
I would like to move the table this item until, I think all 3 projects got to be done, completed before we do anything on there.
So your motion is to table until phase 3 is finished?
Until phase 3 is done.
I'll second that.
Second from Councilman Carson. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered.
Thank you.
Item 5, Councilman Plangus, discussion for possible action. Approval to move forward with discussion for solutions for traffic visibility on the corner of Mill Street and Altman Street. Now this is this corner this right here.
Right down here, yes.
And there has been a vehicle there parked for KRM Automotive, I believe, close to the curb. If you've gone down there, you've noticed that there is a visibility issue.
It's a difficult thing. You have on the west side of the intersection, there's always a vehicle